And before we wrap up this episode, I teased this in the beginning. And I think we just have to talk about it because if you're going to the Australian Open, and in fact, this is something that I want to sort of figure out before we do our Australian Open episode, but you know how people can go watch practices and things like that? I wonder what that setup is like at the Australian Open, because if you're going to the Australian Open and you have the ability to go watch a practice, guess whose practice I'm going to want to watch? I'm going to go watch, one said Novak Djokovic. I'm going to go watch his practice. Why? Why, Nick? Why would I watch his practice?
Because he's going to be practicing with Andy Murray. Not just as a practice partner, as his coach.
What is happening?
Okay, so here's the thing. Anastasia is mainly the mind behind our social media. Let's be real for us. And she pretty much put out my exact thoughts as if I'd posted them. So I had to kind of reword it in a way when I decided to post on social media about it. Although having said that, when the news broke, like, I think, what was it? It came out at 4:00 yesterday.
Yeah.
And I put my phone down and did not check it until 11 p.m. because that's when I was playing my D&D game. So, all that. So basically, I think the first I heard about it was a text from my mum to say, "What do you make of the Novak and Andy news?" And I was like, "What are you on about, mother?" Has Andy decided to come out of retirement to play doubles with Djokovic? Because that's what I thought had happened. And then
also something that could happen.
I checked the news and I'm like, oh. And Anastasia, the first thing you said was, on our social media post was, we thought Andy would be a coach. We didn't think it would be for this player. Like, we saw him backing a young up-and-coming talent, not his old rival who denied him an Australian Open 4 times.
Yeah.
In 4 finals, 2011, 13, 15 and 16. And so for Andy to do that, I mean, I guess it's exciting, it's newsworthy. I think it's interesting that's the choice. I could see it working out for both of them. We'll have to see where it goes, but it's going to be one of the stories of the Australian Open.
No, totally. And I think I've talked about this before a long time, like one of our super, super early episodes, but as someone who was a huge fan of the Big Four, and they just took up so much of our time in tennis, and that's a lot of people's introduction to tennis has been following the Big Four. And it's been so interesting now with them all retiring or close to retirement that, you're kind of like, oh, who do I follow now in tennis? Like, how do I get into tennis or anything like that? Because we just thought, oh, they'll retire and they'll go away. They are not going away. Like, I just feel, even with Roger Federer, who retired 2 years ago, but hasn't sort of played or done any sort of coaching or anything, he's still been around. He'll pop up in tournaments and, fans get to see him still. Who knows what Rafa is going to do. I think of the 4, he's the one who's least likely, I think, to do too much in tennis. But
well, he's got Andy, he's probably going to be running that, but behind the scenes.
Exactly, he's probably going to be doing that. I just don't know how much we'll see him on tour. I don't know. Maybe I'm ill-informed. I don't know, but I just don't know how much we'll actually see him on tour, like showing up at the French Open. He probably will. He probably will. But Andy, like you said, I knew Andy would coach. If anyone, and this is another chance for me to plug the documentary Resurfacing, one of the best sporting documentaries ever. And it just so happens to cover Andy Murray's sort of surgery and recovery from his hip injury. It just showed his nerdiness about sports and his determination. And just from watching that, you knew he wasn't going to be far away from the sport. I think he's just such a nerd about sports and performance and getting the best out of yourself. So I knew for sure he would be coaching, analyzing something in the sport of tennis. I just thought he would give it like a year, first of all. Guys, Andy retired in August. It's November.
Here's the thing, though. Andy's also going on tour in the UK next year. I don't know if you've heard about this.
No, what is he doing?
He's going on tour with an English broadcast journalist called Andrew Cotter. It's literally going to be him on stage just chatting with like the two Andys just chatting. And you can get tickets for it.
Wait a second. Andrew Cotter, he has the dogs, doesn't he? Does
dogs?
He have two dogs? Like, Mabel and... I think he has two dogs and he wrote a book about his dogs, if I am remembering the right person. Interesting. Wait, they're going on tour?
Yeah, let me
and quickly... he's coaching Novak?
Hang on, let me
Andy.
Get it up. I'm going to get it.
Andy.
Because I want to tell the name of the tour. Because, it's only happening in the UK. It's, only on a handful of dates. Andy Murray tour. Yeah. So, Andy Murray, Overcome the Impossible. It's going to be 4 live interviews with Andy Murray on a stage. Edinburgh, Glasgow, London. It's going to be during the grass court season.
Interesting.
So I expect,
what if he's still coaching anyway. Novak during the grass court season?
I mean, to be fair, they only confirmed the coaching arrangement was for Australia.
Right. That is true. Let's
not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay. Either way, I think that's one of the biggest sort of tennis news events, I think, of this year, I think.
You know what the comparison just popped into my head? Do you remember when Serena Williams wound up her career? She ended up being coached by Renee Stubbs.
You're right.
At the US Open.
You're so right.
The same.
Oh my, yes. You are so right. I remember that because I actually went to one of the during fan weeks, you could go and watch her practice and Renee Stubbs was there. And I remember I didn't even know of the news I just thought, oh, what's Renee Stubbs doing on the court? And then I read later on that she was coaching her, but you are so right. And here's the thing. I've always thought, even this season, I thought Novak was definitely winding down his career. And after the US Open, if anyone's been following Novak on social media, he is in his influencer era. He is putting out video after video.
That social media announcement of the partnership was insane.
I mean, there was a video. I couldn't believe there's a video. And it's just, he definitely is in this sort of, I'm enjoying myself, which he has every single right to. He has won every award, tournament, whatever. He's done it. He should enjoy it. But now that you're putting it that way, I totally could see that happening, where it's sort of like next year is a unannounced farewell tour, or just, I mean, because it's almost like, why not? You know, if Andy Murray could coach me for a tournament, I mean, why not? Let's make a ton of videos about it. Let's call Netflix. Oh my goodness. Someone call Netflix.
Somebody already has.
Someone better be calling Netflix, because I think they're done with Carlos's documentary after this season. So they need another project. This is perfect. This is absolutely gold.